PAX Good Behavior Game, teaching children self-control, self-regulation, and peer cooperation.
Good morning, PAX leaders.
Amazing demonstration? No, just how every day begins at South Elementary.
Year number one for you at South School. Tell me about how you might be familiar with PAX and the Good Behavior Game.
Well, I had studied and heard a little bit about PAX before I came here, and was really lucky that once I was hired as South School principal, I got to come over here and be trained when they were trying to update and train some of the staff members. And so I haven't been trained on the full, the being able to play the games and things like that, but I have been trained in what is expected of teachers and staff in the hallways.
Well, you've got a little harmonica around your neck. That seemed to be effective today.
Yes, it is. It was amazing because when I first came, I thought, okay, I can get the kids quiet and not use the microphone or whatever. Of course, that didn't work. But as soon as you put the harmonica over the microphone, the kids immediately got quiet from the beginning. Except maybe the kindergartners who were just learning and immediately would start with the PAX sign, which was just amazing to me on how it just calmed everybody down and it worked.
And obviously it's got to be something that your staff is very proud to have at their fingertips to use these kinds of things.
Yes, they're very proud. They're sold on the program. It just works. And some of our staff who haven't been trained, like we have a new kindergarten teacher this year, and we have some new staff members, they are just waiting to be trained so that they can pick it up because they know how well it works with the other teachers.
I like the way people are raising their hands so nicely, waiting for their turn. That helps the person who's just had a turn know who still needs one. There you go. Remember, if you're doing good PAX, your hands are in your laps, eyes are watching, mouths are closed. If you're doing look at Jackson right now, he's doing great PAX. His legs are crossed, his hands are in his lap. And then that magic can go right up through his bottom, all the way up to his brain. And what happens to his brain?
Smarter.
It's smarter. But if you're, so we
That's what I
now I'm hearing some screams. If you would raise your hand, it would be so much easier for me to hear what you want to say.
Good Behavior Game has its own language. There are made-up words that sound kind of magical for kids. A spleen and a toodle.
We use spleens as anything that takes away from learning. So any kind of behavior that takes away from learning is a spleen in my classroom. And she's right, a data-driven education is the way we're heading now, and this has a beautiful data behind it. Students can control their own behavior with the game. They monitor themselves. You can get more done, they're more on task. And then at the games, when they win a PAX prize from the Wacky Prize Box, it's kind of like a built-in brain break, movement break. They get up, they move, 15 seconds, and we're back down ready to work again. The kids love it, they respond to it, and it's really made a difference in the classroom.
Tell me what a toodle is.
Toodles are the opposite of tattles. And honestly, when we started Toodles, I was like, okay, they like that. I write Toodles for any really good, nice behavior I see. I write Toodles like, oh, you're being a great PAX leader, you're quiet. I like the way you help so-and-so stay on task. And then the students get to the point where they get to write their own Toodles. And it's very touching the way they write Toodles, like I like the way you helped with me during math, or I like the way you played with me at recess. And when they get a Toodle, we put it on the board, we call it the Toodle board. I have a Toodle board out there. So anybody goes by and they read the Toodles. And it's just a shout out. Kids can write them to other adults, to other students. I write them. And tattling has went down dramatically last year. Our age level, they're really big into tattling, and they started looking for something positive to write about their peers, and it was just great to see them thinking positively, not so much in a negative fashion.
We had school pictures, and on the day of our school pictures, it was pretty a momentous occasion. On that day, we sit on bleachers for a group picture, and that day, Ashley had the opportunity to take a challenge that she had not done before. She actually was kind of a risk taker and actually chose to get out of her chair and sit on the bleachers with her classmates. And this was the first time that she has done that for group photos. And it was pretty momentous, let me just tell you. We were pretty excited when she came into reading class because that was what she talked about for the beginning of the class. And she was pretty excited that day, weren't you? She just talked and talked and talked about it because that was the first time she had done that. And while we were talking about it, we had talked about Toodles that morning, Toodles and Tattles, and done this big thing in my classroom. And at that time, we had started that in my own personal classroom, and Zoe is in my homeroom. And while we were talking about it, Zoe leaned over and said, "I think I'd like to write a Toodle." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Would you help me with that?" So we secretly worked on that. And then that's what transpired out in the hallway, which is what ended up happening.
Mount Carmel's Safe Schools Healthy Students Initiative was one of 8 sites selected nationally by SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health, to pilot the PAXIS Good Behavior Game. During normal instructions, activities, and transition, PAX GBG teaches children self-control, self-regulation, and peer cooperation that improve immediate and long-term indicators of peace, productivity, health, and well-being. PAX GBG gives teachers more time to teach and students more time to learn.
What is PAX Quiet?
The teacher goes the manga. Eyes on the teacher. Raise your hand and PAX. Stop what you're doing. Stop talking.
PAX hands. And PAX hands are helpful, not hurtful. So instead of keeping your hands to yourself, stop hitting, you say PAX hands, and that means hands are together either in front of you or behind you. PAX feet, no stomping in the stairs, all of that. You just have to say PAX feet.
So, tell me about your experience with PAX. I know getting to witness this for the first time, it's a pretty cool thing.
Right. We have a good time in class. I mean, the kids get to play a game 3 times a day, sometimes a mystery game. They like to, it's like a game to them, but yet it keeps them on task and what they're supposed to do. So I start out the school year 3 minutes, we're already up to 5 minutes. They know they're on a timer, they know they're supposed to be doing what they're expected to do as far as paying attention, answering when they're supposed to, and not talking to their neighbor. And once that 5 minutes is up, I can tell if they're talking with somebody else, it's considered a spleem. I'm going to say table 1, I hear spleeming, and they're going to know something's going on, and they need to, if they're talking, they will stop what they're doing, and I will mark it. If they have under 3 spleems when the timer goes off, 3 or under, they get to play a Granny Wacky Prize. That's what they're working towards because they love that. So I get to go pick a Granny Wacky Prize out of the box. And it could be, today we did the beach ball. So I go throw a beach ball in the center. It's 15 seconds of action. They get to do something. We've thrown paper wads in the classroom. We've raised the roof. We've quacked like ducks. We've barked like dogs. Anything. 15 seconds that they get to do something fun. It's a lot of fun for the kids, and yet it's keeping them engaged and doing what they're supposed to do. So it's an awesome, the kids are playing a game, they think, but yet at the same time they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So, very good.
is my fourth year teaching, third year teaching in second grade special ed. Every year my classes undoubtedly are saturated with students who have hyperactivity, attention deficit disorders and whatnot. So I've always been flustered and flabbergasted with how I can try to manage all this behavior. Last year, South School adopted the PAXIS and Good Behavior game, and I figured out this was perfect for the way I can implement my classroom management. Starting last year, I was getting close to about 100 spleens an hour in my room. About 2 weeks in from implementing it, I really started noticing the results of the Good Behavior game and PAXIS game. And I went from 100 spleens an hour down to about 70 spleens an hour, and then that just jumped off a cliff and went down to about 20 spleens an hour, and that was last year. Well, this year, since the kids were already had the exposure to it, starting it off, I was getting maybe 25 spleens an hour to begin with, which is victory in my book to start off with. And now I'm getting down to about 15, 16 spleens an hour, which is awesome for me. So I find that I have a lot more time in the day. I teach a reading scripted program to 3 sets of reading groups a day. And I try the best I can to give the students more than one lesson a day, just because they're so far behind. And they need to catch up. You can't catch up by going slower. As silly as that sounds, but it's true, you can't catch up going slower. But now I have so much time in my day, some students are getting upwards towards 3 lessons a day, usually it's about 2.5. So my students are catching up to their regular ed peers. In my classroom, spleening is generally with noisy hands. I always specify I need a quiet hand, so the students are quite aware that they know what quite a quiet hand is, or ooh, 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 a noisy hand. My students are aware that spleens are being disrespectful to other kids. We do have name calling, did a lot last year. I haven't had one case of name calling that I can recall this year. So they're aware of that. They know spleens is getting up and out of their seat when they're not supposed to. In my classroom, I do allow them to get up to sharpen the pencil or grab supplies out of crayons or turning in paperwork on their own. But just to get up and talk to a teacher, they know that's a spleen, that they should just sit there and wait with a silent hand. They know that a spleen is laying your head down, not doing your work, or looking around, and we still have quite a bit of that. They know that to fix their spleens, I always say you can fix your spleens, make it a PAXIS, so they can always get right back to task. There's a lot more independence in my room with the students. The students, I trust them more to go get supplies. In my freezer back there, I have snowballs, which are crumpled up paper balls, and they can go to the freezer and grab the snowballs when they draw that from the Granny Wacky Prize to throw the snowballs at each other. That's one of their favorites. And one of my stools over there, I have paper airplanes, and they can go get that and adjust them themselves. They can pass them out themselves. They're little independent adults, these second graders, and it's really wonderful how well they act.
Talk about when they first proposed this idea to you, what your thoughts were and what they are now.
Well, I graciously said I'd be a pilot classroom thinking, okay, we'll see if this works. There were 4 teachers. They handed me a harmonica and I thought, there is no way when they get loud that they will listen to that harmonica and stop and do PAXIS quiet. It was unbelievable. It works, and I was just excited. I didn't have to yell. I didn't have to flip lights. I wear my harmonica and I blow it, and it gets quiet. And it's just phenomenal. And once we've got the whole school implemented, it's a universal language in the hallway. Any student I see some screaming in the hallway, and they go, ooh, are my feet on both of them on the ground, or am I walking correctly?
Last year I started in October. I went to Boston, and the guidance counselor and I were trained in the PAXIS GBG game. And I came back and we were coaches together, so we went into the rooms once a week and we helped I had a second grade class, 2 second grade classrooms, and I helped them implement the game by teaching the cues and kernels And then as it progressed, I started using it in my own classroom. So then I got a job here at the intermediate school, so this is 3 through 5. And I loved it so much, so I wanted to bring it over from kindergarten, 1st and 2nd to 3rd grade. And now I currently use it in my classroom, which is 24 students. I also use it in my reading group where I have 14 students.
When I hear that she had a first time that she ever sat on the bleachers, and I thought that was a good thing to write a toodle about, and I never wrote one before, only on Mrs. Netter's class. And I decided to write one to her because she done something that was very hard and scary to do when we